In front of a high school, Lu Yun, the principal of Zihai First Academy, is giving a speech to the student who had spent 3 years mastering the theoretical knowledge of the profession system. And today is the day the students would awaken their profession. Lu Yun was a man of few words, but he hoped all of the students could reach the same level as their senior Su Kaingsing and become a pillar for the human race. The other students were feeling the pressure. However, the protagonist of this Manhwa, Lin Moyu, was different. He had been waiting to receive his profession from the moment he was reincarnated into this world many years ago. When he reincarnated, he quickly realized that this world resembled a video game with dungeons, secret areas, and monsters. After getting a profession, you can gain experience points by hunting monsters in dungeons. This in turn increases your level, making you stronger. Countless ancestors gave their life to carve out a living space for humans among the monsters and led to the humans' current way of life. The most popular professions in this world were the combat classes. Support class professions were next in line, followed by livelihood professions. The combat class and support class were divided into 5 ranks: low, medium, high, rare, and legendary. The rare and legendary rank professions were extremely rare, and the entire Zihai city has yet to produce someone with a legendary profession in 10 years. The transmutation circle was activated, and Principal Lu Yun with a paper of the students' names was ready to begin. Suddenly, Gao Yun tapped Lin Moyu on the shoulder and asked him what profession he wanted to awaken. Lin didn't answer, so he went first and told him that he wanted to awaken the knight profession since it would fit his physique, and he could protect all the ladies. Lin didn't like to talk much, and because of his academic achievements, he had gained some haters who were hoping he would awaken a profession from the livelihood class. After Lin walked away, Gao Yang defended him, telling the haters that Lin didn't think he was better than everyone, he was just a man of few words. Principal Lu Yun turned to Master Zhang, a level 52 formation master, and thanked him for taking time out of his day to help the students. Zhang replied saying that he didn't mind, and Lin, who was watching closely, was stunned to see a master with a rare supporting profession. Soon, with the list from earlier, Principal Lu Yun started reading the names of the students. The first student he called was Zhu Da. With his name being called, Zhu Da entered the transmutation circle, and after a flash of light, Zhu Da was assigned the livelihood class farmer. However, a livelihood profession wasn't what he was hoping for, and after stepping out of the transmutation circle, the students tried to comfort him, saying that the farmer profession wasn't a bad one since it could be upgraded to Grand Farmer or Holy Farmer. The next student was called. He entered the transmutation circle, and he awakened the livelihood profession chef. The student was happy with his profession because his father was also a chef, and now he could follow in his footsteps. The names of students were called, but so far all of them only awakened livelihood professions. Master Zhang is hoping to see a high-level profession from the combat class, and even though Principal Lu Yun was hoping for the same thing, he knew it wouldn't be likely. The next student, Zia Zhu, was called, and as she approached the transmutation circle, she was determined to prove to Lin who the real genius is. You see, she is competing with Lin since they are the Academy's 2 geniuses, but he was always ahead of her when it came to grades. Master Zhang could tell at first glance that Zia had potential, and as she walked past them, he told the principal that her mental strength is double that of a normal person and could awaken the mage profession. Soon after Zia stepped into the transmutation circle, a vision appeared, meaning that she was bound to awaken a rare profession. She awakened the combat class elemental mage, a rare profession. Principal Lu and Master Zhang were happy that they witnessed the awakening of a rare profession, and after Zia returned, a group of girls complimented her for awakening a rare profession. Lin heard his name, and he approached the transmutation circle. As Lin approached, Principal Lu turned to Master Zhang, and he asked him what he thought about Lin. Much to Principal Lu's surprise, Master Zhang didn't think anything was special about Lin other than the fact that he was calm. Master Zhang also reminded him that just because a student got good grades doesn't mean they would awaken a high-class profession. Lu understood, but he was still hopeful for another high-class profession awakening. The transmutation circle activated, and the beautiful day suddenly darkened. Chilling winds blew and dark clouds were formed. Principal Lu, astonished by what he was seeing, asked what was happening, and Master Zhang said it was another vision. Lu was surprised since a vision of this scale was unheard of, so he started to wonder if it would be a rare combat profession or a rare support profession. Lin's vision was much bigger than Zia, but she still didn't want to admit defeat. Suddenly, a student pointed out that there was movement within the dark clouds. Everyone looked up, and within the dark clouds there were hundreds of skeletons. The students were scared after seeing the skeletons, and one of them fell to the ground. All of the skeletons suddenly came down upon Lin in a flash of light. And even though Zia knew it was a vision, she also knew that in a fight she would easily be defeated. Lin absorbed all of the skeleton warriors and awakened the combat class necromancer, a unique hidden profession. Lin had awakened a unique hidden class, which meant that he was the only one in the world with the necromancer class. Unless he died, no one else in the world could awaken the necromancer class, and hidden classes were rarer than even legendary classes. Among his classmates there were those who were happy for him, those who were hateful, and those who wanted to see his profession in action. However, Lin paid them no mind, as awakening a unique hidden class was much better than he expected. And as he walked away, Master Zhang asked him to give him a moment of his time. Lin turned around and bowed his head to show Master Zhang respect. This was the first time Master Zhang had seen a unique hidden class profession, so he wanted Lin to give him a demonstration. Lin agreed to give a demonstration, and after checking his stats he saw that he had 2 skills. The first was Summon Skeleton Warrior, with levels ranging from Black Iron, Bronze, Silver, Gold, Diamond, Legendary, and Divine. The other skill was Soul Blaze, which burned the target's soul. The activation of both of the skills depended on his spirit stat, and Lin used 10 spirit to summon a Skeleton Warrior. After activating the skill, of Black Iron rank Skeleton Warrior was summoned. Seeing one of the skeletons that appeared in the sky now in front of them scared the other students. Master Zhang attacked the skeleton warrior with a beam from his fingertips. Suddenly the skeleton warrior's eyes started glowing red, and Lin was asked if he wanted to counter Master Zhang's attack. Lin ordered his skeleton to not attack, and Master Zhang was impressed that the skeleton was unfazed by his attack. Furthermore, he was a level 52 professional, yet Lin's skeleton showed him hostility. He starts wondering if Lin's summons would get stronger as Lin leveled up. He thanked Lin for his demonstration and told him he couldn't wait to see him in the future. As Lin walked away, he ran into Gao Yang, who asked to touch the skeleton warrior. Lin allowed him to touch the skeleton, but he wondered how strong it would be. Lin told him that the skeleton was stronger than him, but Gao found it hard to believe. The next student to be called was Gao Yang, so he hurried to the transmutation circle, and Lin recalled the skeleton warrior. The system displayed that he used up one of his summoning spaces and had 9 left. The summon space served as a place to keep his skeletons until he needs them again, and the number of skeletons he could store will increase as he leveled up. Then Lin recalled the vision he had during his profession awakening of the previous owner of the necromancer profession. This made him wonder if he would be able to kill dragons in seconds like he saw in the vision. His daydreaming was interrupted by Gao, who proudly told Lin that he awakened the combat class Sword and Shield Knight, an advanced profession. He is proud since now he could become Lin's Sword and Shield. Gao was the last student to get a profession, and with this the profession awakening was over, and Principal Lu told the students that they should be proud no matter what profession they awakened, and that the next day the novice leveling dungeon of Zihai would be open, so he hoped the students would continue to work hard. The monsters inside the novice dungeon were concentrated between level 1 and 8. Furthermore, the number of monsters was few, so it's safer than hunting in the wilderness. Zia called out to Lin and Gao, who were leaving, and after catching up to them, she told Lin that she wanted to compete with him during the exams. Lin didn't respond, and as he walked past her, she told him that she wouldn't keep losing to him. Even though she lost to him today, in her heart she was determined not to lose again. Lin returned home. The house was empty, and he picked up a photo frame. The photo was of him, his grandmother, and his sister. While speaking to the photo, he told his grandmother about the profession he awakened and asked his sister to wait for him since he would be admitted to Zia Jing Academy. His moment is interrupted by knocking on the door. He opened the door to see Principal Lu, who handed him some supplies. Lin's sister Lin Mohan was the only one to be admitted to Zia Jing Academy last year, and Principal Lu had made a promise to her to look after Lin, and he had made sure to keep his promise. After giving the supplies to Lin, Principal Lu told him to get a good night's rest since he would be taking a test tomorrow, and afterwards he left. Later that night at midnight, something happened to the system while he was experimenting. The system detected that Lin had awakened as a necromancer, and it initiated a binding process to the strongest talent system. After the binding process was complete, the system congratulated Lin and rewarded him with the passive skill damage transfer, and also increased his comprehensive ability. The passive skill multiplied all skill effects by 5 and transferred any damage he received to one of his skeleton warriors. Lin was in disbelief since both of the skills sounded godlike. He summoned another Black Iron rank skeleton warrior, and all of the skeleton's attributes had increased by 5. This paired with the damage transfer ability would make him invincible. The next day arrived, and at the novice leveling dungeon, Gao asked Lin if he wanted to team up. Lin refused his offer since it would be faster for him to level up if he went solo. Irritated by this, Gao asked him if he was looking down on him. Suddenly Zia appeared out of nowhere, agreeing with Lin that it would be faster to level up if someone entered solo, and according to some seniors it's best to go in solo until you reach level 10, and afterwards it's better to team up. Then Principal Lu told the students that only Zia and Lin are permitted to enter the dungeon alone. The others will have support. A student asked why only Zia and Lin were permitted to enter the dungeon, and Principal Lu told them that Zia needed to level up fast since she was aiming for Zia Jing Academy, and Lin's abilities are unknown, so it's up to him if he wants support. All the students with a support profession were afraid of Lin's skeleton warriors. However, this wasn't a problem for him since he was aiming for Zia Jing Academy as well, so he needed to enter solo to level up quickly. Principal Lu protested this idea since going to Zia Jing Academy would be difficult. One needs to be over level 15 to be on the safe side for the academy test. And Lin's sister was only accepted in because she was level 16. Continuing on, he tells Lin that it would be difficult to get past level 15 in a week's time since the monsters in the novice dungeon only went up to level 8. However, Lin was confident that he could do it, and Principal Lu gave in, and hoped he could achieve his goals with his hidden profession. Zia approached the entrance of the dungeon, and before entering she reminded Lin of their bet, and before he could answer she told him that his silence meant he agreed to compete with her. Lin rubbed his head, disturbed at how competitive Zia was, and after she entered the dungeon, he followed behind her. Inside the dungeon, Lin used the 40 spirit he recovered by meditating last night. And since one skeleton warrior costed 10 spirit, he was able to summon 4. And after summoning them, he ordered them to find and defeat monsters. The skeletons went in different directions and quickly found and killed big ear rabbits. He was so proficient in leveling up that it only took him 30 minutes to reach level 2. Because he leveled up, all of his spirit was replenished, so he summoned 2 more skeleton soldiers to join the hunt. The new level 2 skeleton soldiers dashed off, and as the notification kept coming in, Lin unlocked a map. He noticed that his skeleton warriors missed a monster, however this gave him a good opportunity to try out his Soul Blaze skill. He instantly killed the level 2 Grey Cat, and soon afterwards he reached level 2. With his spirit replenished again, Lin summoned 3 more skeleton soldiers to join the hunt. With the new improvements to his army, level 5 and even level 6 monsters were easily killed. A student could stay inside the dungeon for 12 hours, and in just 4 hours Lin had reached level 4, and it's taking him less than an hour to level up. Outside the dungeon, Principal Lu and Zia's father were having a discussion. Principal Lu mentioned that Zia was very hard-working and that she might be able to reach level 5 like her seniors Su Kaian Xing and Lin Mohan. The novice dungeon served as a test to see how fast the newbies could level up. And if Zia couldn't reach level 5 on the first day, it would be hard for her to enter Zia Jing Academy. Principal Lin is also wondering what level Lin would be able to reach with his unique profession. Everyone knows that once you step foot into the dungeon, you would be kicked out after 12 hours. Zia's father had also heard about Lin's awakening. Principal Lu told him that Lin had awakened the necromancer profession, but no one knew how powerful it was, so the two were waiting to see what level the student would be after the 12 hours. Inside the dungeon, Lin's skeleton warriors could move 500 meters away from him, so he could stay in a safe area and farm experience points. Lin continued to level up rapidly in the dungeon, but after 7 hours had passed, he had yet to encounter a level 8 monster. He decided to leave the safe area, and after walking for a while he came across a forest. And as he was about to enter the forest, he got attacked by a tree branch. However, he was unharmed thanks to his passive skill that transferred all the damage he received to one of the skeleton warriors. The giant level 8 bullwhip tree stood ahead of him. The level 8 monster he was desperately searching for was now in front of him, and all Lin could do was wonder how much damage the tree could take from his skeletons. And with a thought, he ordered a skeleton warrior to attack the tree, but surprisingly the tree monster wasn't killed in one hit. The tree countered, so Lin ordered the other skeleton warriors to attack the tree, and after 4 hits the tree was defeated. Being able to kill level 8 monsters will greatly increase his leveling speed. And looking around, he saw that the forest was filled with hundreds of trees, making it a leveling up sanctuary. Lin commanded the skeleton warriors to attack the bullwhip trees, and as the skeletons made their way through the forest, they proceeded to cut down the bullwhip trees. Outside the dungeon, a portal appeared, but it hadn't been 12 hours yet, so everyone observing was wondering if there was trouble or if someone cleared the dungeon. Lin stepped out of the portal. After killing all the monsters inside, he had reached level 7. Principal Lu was in shock. However, Lin was disappointed that he couldn't reach level 8 even though he killed all of the monsters, so he wanted to go to Zai Hai Suburbia. Principal Lu was speechless, and he didn't respond, so Lin called out to him. And after recovering from the shock, Principal Lu agreed to get Lin his traveling certificate and instructed him to rest. As Principal Lu made his way back to his seat, he was flooded with questions, wondering why Lin exited the dungeon so quickly. He sat down, grabbed his drink, and told them that Lin had killed every monster inside the novice dungeon. Everyone was stunned. Lin's profession was showing to be more powerful than legendary professions. Lin's future was looking bright. But Zia's father was concerned for his daughter since she was competing with Lin. Principal Lu told him not to worry since his daughter's spirit was never broken even though she never won against Lin. Lin meditated to replenish his spirit, and by now he had summoned a total of 24 skeleton warriors. But he still has 70 spots to fill. A while later the 12-hour time limit was up, and Zia came out of a portal. She was happy because she managed to reach level 5, and she looked around for Lin to see what level he reached. However, much to her surprise, Lin was already out of the dungeon waiting for the 12 hours time limit to end. He was also able to reach level 7. Her father called out to her, and after they got into the car, Ding Yang noticed that Zia was down, so he asked her if she needed help to surpass Lin. She refused, determined to surpass Lin with her own strength. However, this would prove to be difficult. Lin had already killed level 8 monsters when she was barely able to kill one level 7 monster. On the way back from the novice dungeon, Gao grabbed onto Lin, begging him to form a party with him next time. Lin agreed and told him that he would be waiting at the school entrance. However, the next day Lin was nowhere to be found, and Principal Lu had to tell Gao that Lin went to Zia High Suburbia. Gao shouted at the top of his lungs, demanding to battle Lin the next time they meet, and he is advised otherwise because he stood no chance. At the Xia Empire Exchange, Lin went through the identification process, and he was granted a level 1 access to the Xia Empire Exchange. Lin looked through the mission available at the exchange and came across one paying 10,000 gold to raid a dungeon and defeat the level 14 boss monster, Goblin King. Dungeons are divided into 3 categories: normal difficulty, nightmare difficulty, which is much more difficult than normal and requires a party to clear, and then there's the hell difficulty. That's so difficult that you need a party of hunters with rare and above professions to challenge it. So it was out of the question for Lin right now. Lin handed the exit permit to one of the guards. The guard confirmed Lin's identity. He was confused why a level 7 student was allowed to exit the city, but the exit permit was real, so the guard activated the exit permit and gave Lin a warning to run away if he encountered anything too dangerous. Lin exited the city gate, and instantly he could tell from the beasts growling that the outside world is different from the cities. Lin noticed a goblin behind him and summoned a skeleton warrior to kill the level 10 goblin. When being compared to his level 7 skeleton warrior, the level 10 goblin was too weak. Lin summoned all of his skeleton warriors to seek out and kill the rest of the goblins, and at the rate at which his skeletons were killing the goblins, reaching level 15 before the exams shouldn't be a problem. However, his sister had reached level 16 before her exam, and he wondered how she did it. He recalled his sister and was more driven to pass the exams for Jiajing Academy. After a while of hunting the goblins, Lin reached level 10 and his skills had also improved. He could now summon a bronze rank skeleton warrior. The bronze skeleton warrior stats had increased a lot, and it could also use a rage shot skill that did 200% damage and had a cooldown of 10 seconds. With the upgrades to his army, it wouldn't be hard for Lin to rule the area. But while looking around, he realized that he killed all of the nearby monsters. Suddenly, he noticed an arrow flying towards him. He noticed it too late, and he got hit. Luckily, the damage was transferred to one of the skeleton warriors. Lin came face to face with a figure dressed in black. He got a good look of her as she ran past him, and from the way she was dressed he could tell that she had the assassin profession. And after she disappeared, an archer and a mage appeared. They seemed to be looking for the assassin girl, but they were heading in the wrong direction. They stopped and asked Lin if he had seen the assassin girl, but instead of answering, Lin wanted them to apologize for shooting him with an arrow. The archer, looking at the ground, apologized to Lin, even though he was confused how Lin didn't take any damage. The mage's expression changed, and he asked Lin if he was the one who summoned the skeleton warrior. The skeleton warrior stepped in between them, and the mage was convinced that Lin was a bad guy since he was controlling the dead, and he raised his staff to attack. However, the archer stopped him, and the two walked away. As the archer and mage walked away, Lin noted that if they would have attacked him, then he would have had to kill them. Later that night, Lin's bronze-rank skeleton warriors were easily wiping out the monsters in the area. However, after hitting level 10, the amount of experience he needed to level up increased by a lot, and to reach level 11 he would have to kill 5,000 goblins, which is an impossible task to get done in one night. And since it was nighttime, he couldn't head back to the city. He summoned 4 more bronze skeletons, and he continued to push further. Later in the night, Lin set up a campfire deep in the forest. Afterwards, he was deep in thought about his leveling speed. He still couldn't figure out how his sister was able to reach level 16. He recalled a memory of his sister returning from the Zihai Mines dungeon, injured, and he concluded that she must have formed a party and challenged the nightmare difficulty. With this, he was more determined to find out the truth, and he decided that he would investigate his theory in the morning. With the skeleton warriors on guard, Lin began to meditate. Later that night, the skeleton warriors noticed footsteps approaching, and they notified Lin. The footsteps got closer, and the assassin girl from earlier appeared in front of him asking for food. He took out a boiled potato he had stashed away and handed it to her. The girl pulled down her mask and quickly started devouring the potato. Lin noticed that she started choking, so he took out a bottle of water and handed it to her. She drank the bottle of water, and after thanking him, she asked for his name. Lin didn't respond, so instead she suggested that they used analysis skill to trade information. Lin agreed and the both of them activated the skill. However, to Lin's surprise, the spell failed and he couldn't get any information about the girl. But the girl, on the other hand, was able to see his name and his profession. This was the first time she had seen the necromancer profession, but she recalled the skeleton that Lin had next to him the last time they ran into each other. Lin calmly looked at her as she blabbered on, and he asked a question, why? The girl was delighted that Lin was speaking to her, but again he looked at her and calmly asked her why. She realized that Lin wanted to know why his spell failed but hers didn't, so she pulled out a blocking badge, which she had stashed away in her shirt. Blocking badge blocked anyone 10 levels below you from seeing your information. The girl put the badge away and asked Lin to use the spell on her again. Lin activated the spell and this time it was a success. The girl's name was Ningyi, a level 19 shadow assassin. Suddenly their expressions changed and both of them turned to face a certain direction. It was the archer and mage from earlier, and this time they were joined by a knight. They were trying to secretly surround them, but Lin had already noticed their presence. As Ningyi was about to run away, the archer shot an arrow. She reacted in time and was able to dodge the arrow. The arrow exploded and red arrow icons appeared above Lin and Ningyi's head. These arrows were marking arrows, and they are specially made to counter those with the assassin profession. The mage from earlier appeared out of nowhere, and with the archer and the knight, Lin and Ningyi were surrounded. Ningyi lifted her knife in a defensive stance and attempted to explain that Lin had nothing to do with her, but they didn't believe her. The archer who was on the tree decided to kill both of them so no one could find out that they had the mid-rank skill scroll. Lin was a level 10, so Ningyi decided to try and hold them off, while Lin runs away. However, Lin was concerned for her. She attempted to convince him that she could run away after he was safe, but Lin already knows that the mark above her head countered the invisibility skill the shadow assassin profession had. With a signal from the archer, the mage raised his staff, getting ready to take both their lives with his attack. The mage used the illumination skill, making the surroundings as bright as day. This skill increased the range of his other abilities, chased away darkness, and further countered the assassin's invincibility skill. Ningyi became tense, and the archer on the tree drew his bow ready to shoot. The knight stood with his shield, and the mage's staff was illuminating the area. They were surrounded with no escape. Lin called for one of his skeleton warriors. The mage, seeing the skeleton, showed disdain towards Lin and his skeletons. He angrily used the fireball spell, expecting that Lin would become a pile of ashes. Ningyi grabbed onto Lin's arm so they could run away, but her legs had been caught by spiritual strings. With the fireball skill heading for Lin, the archer used his triple shot skill and fired arrows at Ningyi. Trying to protect Lin, Ningyi pushed him, but instead she pushed him in the direction of the fireball. In an instant, two skeleton warriors appeared, one protecting Lin from the fireball by taking the hit, and the other blocking the archer's arrows. The knight tried to attack the skeleton by bashing it with his shield, but he was pushed back. The mage couldn't believe that a level 10 necromancer could summon a skeleton that could resist his level 20 fireball, and as the skeleton approached him, he begged it not to come closer. The knight and the archer were also stunned that their attack didn't have a single effect. Lin summoned more and more of his skeleton knights until the mage, the archer, and the knight were completely surrounded. Ningyi was also stunned. She had seen Lin's skeletons earlier today. The skeletons appeared worn out, yet they were still so strong. She questioned why the archer and the mage's attack did nothing to the skeletons summoned by a level 10. She turned to Lin, whose eyes were filled with murderous intent, and without a thought all of the skeleton warriors attacked. As the skeleton warriors charged at him, the mage activated a barrier spell, but a single hit from a skeleton warrior was enough to leave cracks in the barrier, and soon after they broke through. In desperation, the mage activated a skill that pushed back the skeleton. He celebrated, thinking he succeeded in defeating the skeleton warriors, but this was short-lived. The skeleton warriors were quick to recover, and they put an end to the mage in seconds. The archer, who was running away from a skeleton warrior, was puzzled. His agility was over 1,000. But he couldn't seem to put distance between him and the skeleton. He continued to use his agility to try and break free from the skeleton, but in the end he couldn't. The knight, seeing his two comrades dead, activated the extreme defensive skill and charged at the skeletons. With the extreme defensive skill, a knight is able to withstand an attack from a level 40 mage, and it proved difficult for the skeletons to break through. Seeing this, Lin commanded his skeleton warriors to activate their skill. Berserk Strike was activated. The knight couldn't believe that the skeleton warriors could use skills too, and he was running out of time. The extreme defensive skill lasted for 1 minute, but that time will decrease as the shield sustains damage. And with the skeleton warriors using their skill, the extreme defense skill went on to cool down. And as the knight was struck down, Lin recalled the words of his sister, telling him that if he was going to kill, then he shouldn't hesitate. And that's exactly what he did. Ning Yi was still shocked. A level 10 had killed professionals, and he hadn't moved an inch. The skeleton warriors returned and dropped a bow, a staff, a shield, and a sword in front of their master. You see, when a person dies, the items that they had in their storage space will drop. All the items of the archer, the mage, and the knight were drops from the dungeon of Carmen's Orc Legion, a level 20 dungeon. Lin put all 4 of the equipment into his portable storage with the goal of selling them later, since they wouldn't be useful to him. After collecting the equipment, 1 item remained, a primary skill scroll. That gives you a skill below the level 20. Lin contemplated selling the scroll since it was worth 10,000 gold. But Ning Yi advises him to use the scroll. To her, 10,000 gold isn't a lot of money. Lin turned to her and asked how to use it. She laughed at him and said it's easy, just say use while holding it. Lin held the scroll tightly and said use, but nothing happened. Ning Yi then said that Lin didn't say it loud enough. You need to say it louder for it to work. But Lin had already noticed that the scroll only required spiritual energy to activate it. He injected his spiritual energy and the scroll was activated. Ning Yi was puzzled how Lin saw through her prank. And from the scroll, Lin acquired the corpse explosion skill. The skill explodes corpses and deals 10% damage to enemies within 1 meter. To a necromancer, corpses also contain life, and even though the skill he acquired sounds weak, if he factors in his talent, then the radius would increase to 10 meters. And if he explodes a corpse, then it would set off a chain reaction of explosions. His talents made all of his skills overpowered. Curious, Ning Yi asked Lin if he learned a new skill. Lin answered, and Ning Yi complimented his voice, wishing he talked more. Lin stared at her. Ning Yi was different from all the girls at school. Lin complimented her voice as well. Ning Yi blushed, and as a reward for him saving her and complimenting her as well, she gave him a small treasure chest. Lin took the chest and opened it. It was an intermediate skill scroll that would be worth 1 million gold. Lin was shocked. Not only was the item expensive, it was the reason why she was being chased. Ning Yi sat down by the campfire. She had obtained the intermediate skill scroll after opening a chest in Carmen's dungeon. But the archer and the mage were watching her. They wanted to snatch it away. And even though she didn't think the scroll was worth much, it was something that she found, so she didn't want to hand it over. The archer and the mage decided to take the scroll by force, so she ran. She ran for 2 days, going from Shanghai City to Zihai City, but she couldn't get away from them. Lin sat down next to Ning Yi and said, "You almost died just now." Ning Yi explained that he shouldn't worry, since if she received fatal damage, then she would automatically be teleported away. But she was still thankful that he saved her, since she still feared pain. Lin realized that he was worried for nothing, and that Ning Yi must be from a big family. Ning Yi reached out her hand and asked if he had more food to eat. Lin pulled out some more boiled potatoes. Ning Yi accepted the potatoes and started eating. She asked him what college he planned on attending, and Lin answered that he planned on going to Zhejiang University. To her, with Lin's skill, he would be able to get into any university, and if he couldn't pass the exams, no one could. She thought of something and told Lin that if he planned on going to Zhejiang Academy, then he should head to Shangxia Tower. The first clear of the tower would give him double the reward, so he should aim to clear as many floors as possible on his first try. Doing so would grant him a lot of points, and in Zhejiang University, points are a form of currency. There is also a creation seminary, and he must also go there. Eventually, Ning Yi fell asleep. Lin took off his coat and covered her with it. Then he started meditating to recover the spiritual energy he used to fight the archer, the mage, and the knight. The next day, Ning Yi woke up hungry, and she asked Lin if he had more boiled potatoes. Lin gave her 7 boiled potatoes, but she reached out her hand demanding all the potatoes he had. But those were all the potatoes that Lin had. Ning Yi grabbed all the potatoes. Then she stood up and told him that she would be going to level up. She wanted him to level up quickly as well, so the next time they meet, they would be able to form a party and level up together. Ning Yi disappeared into the forest, and after she was gone, Lin approached the corpse of the archer, mage, and knight to test out his new skill. He activated the skill, and the corpses of the archer, mage, and knight exploded violently, leaving behind a giant crater. After the skill had been enhanced by his talent, the area of effect had increased a lot. It was now similar to a divine skill. Lin decided that he was at a point where he could comfortably try out the Zihai Mine dungeon. As he walked through the forest, he was deep in thought. The spiritual energy required to summon the skeleton warriors was increased after they went from the black iron rank to bronze, and after meditating last night, he could summon 4 more skeletons, and the total skeleton warriors he had was 48, but he still had room for 52 more skeleton warriors. However, there was no need for him to rush when the spots would be filled sooner or later. On the outskirts of the forest, Lin could see the entrance to the Zihai mine, and later, after arriving at the mine, he walked to the portal with one of his skeleton warriors and drew the attention of all the hunters. In front of the portal, Lin checked the dungeon information. The dungeon didn't have a hell difficulty, but elite monsters could still spawn in the other two difficulties, normal and nightmare. To clear the normal difficulty, a normal person would need a party of 5, with double supporters. A hunter approached Lin from the back trying to get a glimpse of his information, but Ning Yi had given Lin her shield badge, so the hunter couldn't see his information, and the skeleton warrior glared at the hunter menacingly. 3 more hunters approached Lin trying to recruit him. Lin is happy that Ning Yi gave him her shield badge since none of the hunters could see his stats. He declined the hunter's offer and selected the nightmare difficulty of the dungeon. A prompt popped up asking him to confirm that he selected the nightmare difficulty, and after thinking about it, Lin confirmed his selection. Lin is teleported away concerning the other hunters, who asked the hunter that previously tried to check Lin's information what level he was, and he told them that he couldn't see Lin's information. All the hunters could do was wait to see if Lin could come back alive. Inside the Zihai mining dungeon, Lin was observing a goblin inside a protective circle. The goblin was an enhanced elite monster and its stats were several times higher than a normal goblin. A level 14 knight would have about 300 to 400 into his stats, and he would be completely unmatched against the enhanced goblins. Normal profession would stand no chance of clearing the nightmare difficulty without a party, but when you compare the stats of Lin's skeleton warriors to the enhanced goblins, there was still a vast difference. Lin summoned his skeleton warriors and stepped out of the protective circle. The goblin noticed Lin and charged, but it was quickly slain by the skeleton warriors. Lin received 4,200 experience, which is 10 times higher than a monster of the same level in the normal difficulty. 1 kill in the nightmare difficulty is equal to 10 kills in the normal difficulty. Lin ordered the skeleton warriors to seek out and kill the monsters. He was determined not to leave a single monster alive. Soon after Lin leveled up, it took him only 5 minutes to level up, and leveling up also replenished his spiritual energy, and he summoned 4 more skeleton warriors. After passing level 10, the amount of stat points he received for leveling up also increased. His strength and agility stat used to increase by 10, but after hitting level 11 they went up by 20. His spiritual energy also increased by 100 now. The skeleton warriors also had 200 points added to all of their stats. However, he was confused since nothing changed about his corpse explosion skill. He recalled Ning Yi, realizing that she might have an explanation. He gets surprised by the roar of the 15-level Wolf King. The monster's stats were higher than Lin's skeleton warriors. However, there was only one Wolf King, and Lin had over 40 skeleton warriors. Lin ordered the skeletons to attack the monster. The Wolf King tried using the roar skill again to push the skeletons back, but they were able to endure its attack. Lin ordered his skeletons to use the Rage Strike skill. The Wolf King was struggling to attack the skeletons, and on the verge of being defeated, it used the roar skill again, and although it didn't have a lot of attack power, it was able to push the skeleton warriors back this time. Afterwards, the Wolf King ran away. Lin was puzzled. He didn't know that a dungeon boss would actually run away, but then he sensed that something was wrong, and he ordered the skeleton warriors to retreat. But it was too late and they were surrounded by level 14 mine wolves. The wolves weren't strong, but unlike the Wolf King, there were hundreds of them. Lin knows that normal professionals wouldn't be able to handle so many wolves, but he was a necromancer, and to him all the wolves were experience points. His skeleton warriors attacked the wolves, and with the wolves' corpses he used his corpse explosion skill. The skill one-shotted all of the mine wolves, and afterwards the Wolf King returned, but it was easily defeated with the corpse explosion skill. The Wolf King gave him 15,000 experience, but when compared to the time it took him to kill it, it wouldn't be effective for leveling up. But luckily the monster dropped a valuable item. He stored the item away and continued to push further into the dungeon to find the final boss. In the future, Lin planned on soloing the hell difficulty of dungeons so he could get more experience. He leveled up 1 hour after entering the nightmare difficulty, so in a few more clears it's possible for him to reach level 19. Later he came across the final boss of the tower, the Goblin King, who was asleep. Lin was close to hitting level 12, so he woke the boss up, and instantly he was attacked. The damage was transferred to a skeleton warrior, but it sustained too much damage and it had to be shared with another skeleton warriors. But the skeleton warriors died afterwards, decreasing his total number of skeleton warriors to 54. Lin realized that when compared to the boss, his stats were too low, and even though the skeleton warrior's defensive stat was high, His was low when compared to the Goblin King, so he sustained more damage from the Goblin King. Lin's only weakness was himself. To change that, he would have to focus on his stat points in the future. The skeleton warriors were struggling against the Goblin King, but this wouldn't be a problem for long, since he has a whole army of them. The skeleton warriors succeeded in swarming the boss, but the Goblin King was able to use the shockwave skill, and it jumped into the air and landed on the ground. The monster's skill was more effective at repelling the skeleton warriors than the Wolf King's roar skill. Following his previous attack, the Goblin King used the fire breath skill. Lin's skeleton warriors were engulfed in the flame, and he had no choice but to command them to return to the summoning space. The Goblin King's fire breath skill was causing trouble, and he needed a way to interrupt it. The boss monster activated the skill again, and Lin summoned more skeletons to distract it and used the soul flame skill. Lin succeeded in interrupting the boss monster's skill, but he was running low on spirit energy, so he summoned the rest of the skeleton warriors from the summoning space. The skeleton warriors continued to attack the Goblin King until it was defeated. As a reward, Lin received 40,000 experience points, the bronze level goblin sword, bronze level wisdom robe, and the Goblin King's core. Lin also reached level 12. Lin observed his rewards. The robe of wisdom shortened the cooldown of his skills by 5%. The cooldown wasn't much use to Lin, but the robe increased his spirit stat and health stat by 10. Other than the dagger and the wisdom robe, Lin also received the Goblin King's core, a valuable item that cost about 30,000 gold. At the moment, the core and the dagger were of no use to him, so he stored them away. And because his spirit energy was replenished, he summoned 4 more skeleton warriors before leaving the dungeon. Lin appeared at the entrance of the dungeon and caught the attention of all the hunters. They were surprised that he was able to solo clear the dungeon, and he was wearing the wisdom robe. Lin walked through the crowd too deep and thought to pay attention to the other hunters. The dungeon had a 12-hour cooldown, but hunting monsters outside the dungeon wasn't effective, so he decided to wait for the 12-hour cooldown. From the dungeon, Lin figured out his biggest weakness and how his skills worked. If he could use his corpse explosion skill properly, then it would become an overpowered skill, and his soul flame skill can interrupt an enemy's skill and ignores their defense. Lin went back to meditating, and 12 hours later the cooldown for the dungeon was up, and he could summon 4 more skeleton warriors. As he made his way to the entrance of the dungeon, he noticed a party of hunters gathered around a campfire. Seeing the party around the campfire made him recall Ning Yi. Lin made his way to the entrance and noticed that it was crowded with people. A guild called the Dynasty Guild and the other hunters were in a standoff. The Dynasty Guild stood at the entrance, stopping anyone from challenging the dungeon. The hunters complained, and a mage from the Dynasty Guild affirmed again that no one could challenge the dungeon until their leader completed his task. But the hunters continued to protest. The mage activated his fireball skill, killing one of the protesters. The other hunters panicked and asked how he could just kill someone like that. The mage taunted the crowd, saying if they had the guts, then they could try taking revenge on the Dynasty Guild. Lin approached one of the hunters and asked what was going on. The hunter recognized him as the person who cleared the nightmare difficulty of the dungeon by himself, and he explained that the Dynasty Guild was after the Goblin King core drop. But the drop rate is very low. However, it is guaranteed to drop in the nightmare difficulty once every 100 days. Today was the 100th day, and the Dynasty Guild leader went inside the dungeon, and he ordered his members to keep the others from entering. The Dynasty Guild had made a mission for hunters to get the Goblin King's core, but no one was able to complete it, and they were paying way less than the core was worth. Lin wondered if it was a coincidence that the Goblin King's core dropped for him. He turned to the hunter and asked him what the core was used for. The hunter explained that the core can be used to make a ring that increases all stats by 10 and increases all skill levels by 1, but it required the hunter to be level 15 to use it. To a beginner, the ring would seem like an overpowered accessory. Rumors had it that the guild leader of the Dynasty Guild was aiming for Jing Academy, and is the reason he wanted the core so badly. They had everything else they needed to make the ring, but the Goblin King's core was still missing. Lin walked towards the portal to enter the dungeon. He didn't care about the Dynasty Guild's mission. They were just getting in his way of leveling up. The hunter tried to stop him, but with his skeleton warrior, Lin proceeded to approach the entrance portal. Noticing that Lin was approaching, the mage stepped on the body of the hunter he killed and asked Lin if he was looking to die, just like the hunter below his feet. Lin stared at them coldly, ordering them to get lost. All of the members of the Dynasty Guild were well armored, and a kid dared to challenge them. The mage kicked the dead body of the hunter he killed away, and he asked Lin if he knew who he was talking to. Again, Lin glared at them coldly and told them to get lost. The mage used the detection spell and saw that Lin was a level 12 necromancer. He laughed at the fact that a level 12 dared to order the Dynasty Guild around. The other hunters tried to pull Lin back, but he was paying them no mind. Again, Lin glared at the mage coldly, and his gaze made the mage nervous. Lin started walking towards them, and the mage lifted up his staff and dared Lin to take another step. Lin continued to approach them, so the mage ordered the Dynasty Guild members to kill Lin. Lin ordered his skeleton warrior to attack, and the mage quickly activated a shield. In one strike, the skeleton warrior almost broke the shield. The mage was stunned. His shield should be able to withstand 5 attacks from level 20 hunters like him, but after just one hit from the skeleton warrior, his shield was almost broken. Lin ordered the skeleton warrior to use the rage strike skill. The mage was scared for his life. He never would have guessed that the skeleton warrior could use skills too, and if the next attack lands, he would die for sure. So he activated the fire repulsion ring skill and pushed the skeleton warrior back. Afterwards, the mage ordered the other members to attack. A knight used the shield bash attack on the skeleton warrior, but he was sent flying with one swing of the skeleton warrior's sword. The skeleton jumped at the mage following Lin's command. The mage quickly instructed the other members to kill Lin. The best way to kill a summons is to kill the summoner instead of his summons. 2 archers activate the triple shot skill and fire it at Lin. The other hunters called out for Lin to dodge, but he didn't bother. Instead, he summoned 2 more skeletons from the summon space. The 2 skeletons easily blocked the arrows, shocking the hunters. The mage managed to repel the skeleton warrior that was charging at him. He shouted, and immediately all of the knight rushed in front of him, shielding him from any incoming attacks. With no immediate danger, the mage started to cast a spell. He lifted his staff in the air and activated the Fire Serpent Dance skill. This is a rare skill that only 1 in 3 mages are able to learn. It is the strongest skill for mages that are level 20. The skill was directed at Lin and his skeletons. The skeletons were engulfed in the flame. However, in the midst of the flames, the skeleton warriors charged at the Dynasty Guild's members. The mage's face turned pale. He was already surprised by the 3 skeleton warriors earlier, and he never expected that Lin could summon more, to the point where they exceeded their numbers. The mage snapped out of it and ordered the members to get into formation. Then he lifted his staff and granted them a strength boost, speed boost, agility boost, and spirit boost. He also ordered the other members with a support profession to give the other members more spells to enhance their stats. The Dynasty Guild members are experienced in working together, and their formation proved that. Lin turned back to the hunters and asked them to step back. Afterwards, he activated his Soul Flame skill and aimed for one of the archers in the middle of the formation. The skill landed successfully, and instantly the healers of the Dynasty Guild did their best to heal the archer. But after casting countless heal spells on the archer, he still died. The mage, witnessing this, started questioning if the whole Dynasty Guild was really about to be wiped out by one man. Lin ordered the skeleton warriors to group up and attack. The tanks on the front line of the Dynasty Guild formation activated the shield skill, but the skill couldn't last long. The supporters casted one buff spell after the other, but still the skeletons were able to break through. Lin used the Soul Flame skill once again, and as the tank burnt, the skeleton warriors finished him off. When the tank fell, an opening was created in the Dynasty Guild's formation, and the skeleton warriors made their way through, killing all the members. All the mage could do was watch as the killing ensued. He wanted to order them to run, but it was too late. A skeleton warrior lifted the dead body of the tank in the air and threw it in the middle of the formation. Then Lin used the corpse explosion skill, and the tank's corpse detonated, causing a violent explosion. All that was left after the explosion was the corpse of the Dynasty Guild members. Lin walked through the corpse, and at the portal entrance he activated the corpse explosion skill again. After he entered the dungeon, the other hunters were in shock. Lin had killed all the members of the Dynasty Guild, and nothing was left behind, not even the corpses. They became scared that the guild leader would exit the dungeon and blame them for the guild members' death. They all agreed to leave the area and go somewhere where no one could find them. Half an hour later, the boss of the Dynasty Guild was teleported out of the dungeon after failing to get the Goblin King's core. A woman beside him noticed that there wasn't a single person nearby. The guild leader ordered the woman to send a message to see if their guild members were close by, but there was no response. The guild leader started to panic. The mage should be the strongest hunter in the area, and if he was killed, why is there no trace? Things may get dangerous if they stayed longer, so they left. 1 hour later, inside the dungeon, Lin killed the Goblin King for the second time. He received 40,000 experience points, a bronze rank weapon, Goblin King's magic book, and a low-level monster core. He didn't receive the Goblin King's core like the first time, but a monster core was still a good drop. Lin wanted to try the Goblin King's ring, but he didn't know any alchemist to craft it for him, so he decided to wait until he got into the Jiajing Academy. Lin sat on the dead Goblin King's corpse and opened the Goblin King's magic book. The book granted him 10 points to spirit, 10 to defense, and 3% magic attack power. It would be useful for Lin's soul flame skill and corpse explosion, but it did nothing for his skeleton warriors. In the process of killing the Goblin King, Lin reached level 13. He quickly calculated that if he wanted to reach level 15, then he would need to complete the dungeon 3 more times. He was running out of time, and at most he could do 5 more dungeons and reach level 16. He wanted to level up a bit more, but level 16 should be enough for him to get into Ziyajing Academy. He teleported out of the dungeon, and outside he noticed that everyone was gone. But he expected this. The dungeon was on cooldown, so he decided to come back the next day. The next day we see Zia, who had finally reached level 10 and could challenge Zihai Mine Dungeon. She was proud of herself, but this quickly changed after she noticed Lin entering the dungeon alone. She couldn't believe that Lin had leveled up to the point where he could solo the dungeon. However, she was more determined than ever to not lose to Lin, and she also had a rare profession, so it shouldn't be hard for her to find a party. 45 minutes later, Lin arrived in the final boss room. After leveling up and meditating, Lin had summoned a total of 72 skeleton warriors. The Goblin King woke up, but by the time it stood, Lin had already defeated it. After defeating the Goblin King, Lin gained 40,000 experience. The loot was the same except for the bronze rank bow. The Goblin King seemed frustrated, and Lin waved his hand indicating that the monster shouldn't be surprised that it was killed, since monsters are meant to be killed. He didn't want to kill the Goblin King, but there was no other way. He needed to level up. Another 12 hours passed and Lin returned to his friend. They were quite acquainted already, so the Goblin King shouldn't be surprised to see Lin 3 more times. Lin quickly killed the Goblin King and reached level 14 and obtained the Goblin King's scepter that increased his spirit by 10, defense by 10, and magic power by 3%. After reaching level 14, the number of skeletons he had in the summoned space was now 76, but he still hasn't found a way to increase the level of the skeleton warrior's skill. And while meditating outside the dungeon, Zia called out to him. She looked like she just came out of the dungeon. She stared at Lin and asked him what level he was. Lin told her that he was level 14. She was shocked. Her party had used up all of their energy and she was barely able to reach level 11. She couldn't believe it. During the novice dungeon, there was only a 2-level difference between them, but that difference seems to be growing. She walked away to find another party. Zia entered the dungeon again. Lin couldn't believe it. Dungeons had cooldowns, but Zia was challenging a dungeon again after just coming out. 1 hour later, she came out of the dungeon exhausted, but after seeing Lin, she motivated herself to find another party. 1 hour later, she came out of the dungeon looking worse than before. Lin wanted to ask her about the dungeon cooldown, but Zia quickly accepted a request for party members. Half an hour later, she exited the dungeon. She looked beyond exhausted, but she reached level 12 and was closing the gap between her and Lin. She sat down next to Lin, and Lin looked down at her and asked her if she wasn't tired. She replied saying that she was, but after being overshadowed by Lin for so many years, her being exhausted wasn't going to stand in her way of surpassing him. Surpassing Lin wasn't her only goal. She also wanted to enter Ziyajing Academy. Lin was trying to help her out, so he told her that if she challenged the nightmare difficulty, then she would level up faster. But this was out of the question for her. Challenging the nightmare difficulty required an elite party, but elite parties only allowed level 16 and 17 professionals to join them. Lin looked at her and was finally able to ask how she managed to ignore the dungeon cooldown. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, then hit the like button.